Good evening and welcome to the shakedown of Class C in the EIS Proxy series, round 2, South Manchester Slot Racing Club on 3 Rivers. This is a shakedown of the cars to make sure they all run in the right direction, everything is in one piece, nothing's falling apart. This is not timed runs, just a quick shakedown. This is Class C, Classic Daytona, which is a bit of a Group 5 class, quite a lot of Group 5 cars in here, which suits me. I quite like a Group 5. First up is ALS Racing's Lancia Beta, I think these are called, Lancia Betas. A few people made these bodies, so I'm not sure. I think it's the sideways one. It looks like a sideways chassis anyway. I think that's a slightly angle windery, sidewindy. I don't know what motor it is. But nice wide tyres as you'd expect on these Group 5s. Looks really good. Love the wheels. Everything seems to be running and loose and free where it needs to be. Let's see how it goes around the track. Wow, so that ran really smoothly, really nicely, plenty of grip. Still don't know what motor it is, but it's got plenty of poke and lots of go. Felt nicely balanced. Around this track, that's a really nicely running car. So, well done there to ALS Racing. Next up, we have Rosillo Racing's BMW M1. Again, a sideways Group 5 car. These M1s are low and wide, normally very good. This looks quite standard. I think that's the sideways chassis pod, the standard motor, standard gears. I don't know what pinions on it, obviously, but standard gear anyway. And looks like a really nice car. Everything seems to be moving where it should and not moving where it shouldn't. No float in the pod at all on this one, but float in the body. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it very much depends car by car. But we'll give this a go and see how we get on. There we go. Apologies, Rosillo Racing. A bit of a lack of guide touching the rails. They're very short. Not lack of guide, lack of braids touching the rail. They're very short braids, so I think they weren't quite touching, but it'll all be sorted out for the race. In terms of when it does go round, a little bit bouncy, a little bit shaky, maybe due to that lack of sort of suspension and movement. But it was very quick. That's a quick motor for this track, a nicely geared motor if it's the standard gearing as well. So plenty of grip. Hopefully after a few laps it'll sort the bounce out and it might do some really good lap times. Next up is Team Groundhog's De Tomaso Pantera. It is Jägermeister livery, very nice. A bit of modifications on the lights, I think, there to give it some lights. I guess this is the pop-up headlights, but pop-down models. That's been modified to give it some lights. It's the Home Series chassis, so no pod, but a nice sidewinder motor. The transmission feels very smooth. It's got a very wide track on these cars, and they're low, of course. Everything seems to be, the guide's maybe a little bit stiff, but it is moving side to side, so it should be okay. And everything else seems to be moving quite freely. Let's see how it goes around the track. There we go. That goes around no problem at all. It's pretty quick. If that's the standard motor, it's the Scale Auto 20k motor. They're very pessimistic when they call it a 20k. A lot of them are 23, 24, 25k, and that feels like a nice quick one. The car's very low and nice and wide, so it goes very nicely around the track. Next up, we have Courtney Sports Camaro 72. Different take on this class, not a Group 5 or sort of supercar Camaro. It looks like, 3D chassis, sidewinder pod. Another one of those green motors, I'm not sure what they are, I'll have to look those up. They seem popular. Everything's moving very nicely on the front wheels. Yeah, they're okay actually. Not so good upside down, but when it's the right way up, they seem to be okay. It's very low, it's got a nice stance to it. And I believe these are very popular and very competitive proxy cars. Well, let's see how we get on. Well, that's a super smooth and quiet car. Maybe one of the smoothest, plastic chassis cars I've heard. Runs really well, really nice. Whatever that motor is, it's really good. It's geared really well for this track. Obviously, all proxies are a compromise on the gearing, but for this one, that's a really good choice of gearing. And it goes really smoothly, really well. It's definitely got a chance of giving some of the Group 5 cars a bit of a scare around here, I would say. Next up is the other new entrant, so hasn't run around with the Proxy before, Oak Tree Racers. It's a Porsche 914, a staple of many Proxies, so I think they are popular for a reason. Very low, very light body, maybe a little bit short wheelbase for a track like this, but I know we have had Porsche 904s in Proxies before and they've gone quite well here. Quite a chunky motor, and by the looks of it, long can motor, so it could be quite a goer as well. Let's see how it gets on. So there you go. Hopefully you could see, yeah, very, very quick down the straight with that big motor. A little bit skittish around the corners, but it is very dusty still and hasn't had much running on this track yet. It will be better when we actually are at the racing. I didn't realise it was going to have lights. That was a nice surprise. It's done well to squeeze lights into this because I don't think there can be much room left under that body with that motor in there. Really nice car, really smooth to drive. Well done. Next up is Green Star's De Tomaso Pantera. This might be one that we've seen before on this track, although obviously it could be a completely different configuration, motor, gears, wheels, tyres, could be everything different by now. But I think we've seen it before, and they are, like the other De Tomaso, they are low and wide and look really, really nice. This one's got quite a lot of suspension travel on there, normally makes for quite a smooth car. And I think that might be the same motor as the Porsche you just saw, which was pretty quick, so it could be a quick car and a smooth car. Let's see how it gets on. So there you go, hopefully you could see that was smooth, it was quick, a little bit of chatter out of some of the corners, but it is very dirty, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. That might go away when we actually clean the track up. Very nice and very smooth, very well put together car. Next up is Team Tatters, that's me, BMW 320. I can tell you a bit about this car because I built it. It's the standard sideways chassis. That's a Scale Auto pod, I think, Scale Auto 20k motor, 1232 gearing. I think they're BRM tyres on the back of those wheels. They're the standard rear wheels and metal front wheels that came with the car. Standard guide. I put some lights in it. I had a few test runs around this track in it, and it went in okay. Although, if I remember rightly, it isn't going to be as quick as some of these cars that I've already run. But I experimented with a bit of tape on the pod, not really knowing what I was doing, but it seemed to go okay with it. Let's give it a go. So there you go. Yeah, it was okay. It was fairly quick. Handled okay, sounded like a bag of spanners, which a lot of my cars do for some reason. Never really sure why they make so much noise. Possibly very hard front tyres. I glazed the front tyres, so they're very hard. But overall, that's not too bad, but I don't think it's going to be the quickest, having raced some of the others. I don't race any of the classes that I'm in, by the way, so there's no advantage of me practicing or running the cars around. I won't actually be running this class at all. But just to have a bit of a comparison. And it does run basically as I remember it running. If that gives you any comfort, that your car probably does as well. Remember, run as you remember it running. Next up, we have Scott Sports Porsche 911. This is the old 911 scale electric. I think, pretty sure it's Scalextric body, nice 3D chassis, very thick chassis, so it's probably a decent low centre of gravity on that. One of the semi-sprung chassis with, that's going to be quite a chunky motor, I think, a 22k long can motor, so it's going to have some go. I think everything is running pretty freely and looks quite good. Pretty tacky tyres, just going to clean them up. Everything's a bit dusty, but I'll clean everything up anyway before we properly race. Let's see how it gets on. Okay, so if you could hear that over the sound of my daughter chattering away to herself, it was very, very rattly. It did have a lot of speed, as we were expecting from that motor. It did have good grip, but bouncing a lot, which meant that it wasn't really, the tyres weren't really touching the track as much as they would ideally be, so it was skitting around a lot. I'm not sure what the bouncing was coming from. It feels very, very stiff, so it might just be that the body's very stiff on the chassis, but there is movement in the pod. I'll check it out just to make sure it's nothing untoward, but I can't see anything obviously wrong. Maybe it's just a little bit tight body to chassis, which is causing those vibrations, little vibrations that will be coming through to be amplified and make it a little bit more shaky than would be ideal. Next up is, I think this is Harrison's Racers. Harrison's Racers Capri, Group 5 Capri. I don't know, I don't think it's the sideways one. I imagine Fly probably made one, a few people probably made one. I don't know which body it is. It doesn't feel as flexible and lightweight, shall we say, as the sideways ones. It's probably not that. 3D chassis, again, semi-floating pod type chassis. With, I'm not sure what the motor is, an S-can motor, which does seem, I don't know if you can see that, does seem to move around a little bit, which I'll check that that's not anything broken, but that might cause a little bit of vibration or a little bit of unsmooth running, we will see. Apart from that, everything seems okay. Guide's got quite a lot of spring back to it, which is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as it can turn, which I think it will be fine actually. Yeah, I think it can turn okay. So it's a nice looking car, it's a really nice finished body. Well, let's see how it runs. So there you can see it's very smooth, not the quickest in the straights, but smooth. So whatever it was that I thought might cause some vibrations did not cause any vibrations. It was the motor, wasn't it? That didn't seem to matter. It was very smooth and plenty of grip, just not quite the quickest, but a really nice looking car anyway. And as you could probably hear, my daughter thought it was faster than she could run. So that's definitely a big thumbs up from her. So last up in Class C, we have, I think it's going to be Bangers Racing. Let me check. Yes, Bangers Racing Lancia Beta. Nice livery. I don't know which model it is, if it's the Fly or the Sideways. I'd probably say the Fly, judging by the body. It's got some lovely wheels on it, a big chunky motor, 430 grams of torque motor. Wow, that's going to fly. HRS or a slotted universal chassis of some sort. The guide is very, very, very stiff. It won't spring back and is very stiff. Just make sure it's not actually because it's rubbing. No, seems okay. With that sort of motor though, it might not matter. It might be able to bend anything to its will, that motor. Tyres are quite tacky, quite good, and front ones are nice and smooth, so it should run quite well if it can get the guide to turn. We will see. Well, there you go. As you can see, an absolute rocket, as you might expect with that motor. The guide turning was no problem. It's a bit of a pain to get it back in the slot afterwards, but the motor was absolutely rapid. The tyres have got enough grip to handle it just about, but there's not much brakes to it, strangely. So yeah, that's why we had a little off there. It didn't quite brake as much as I was expecting it to, based on how quick it picks up speed. But I won't be racing this class, so you'll have a better driver than me, and that is a very quick car, so it could be a competitor on here where you can use a bit of that speed. So well done on that build. I think that is the last car in Class C, the Classic Daytonas. I hope that was useful, and good luck in the race.